Hi, my name is Frank. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here to talk about a healing support program we've developed. It's being provided online. It's a 10-week program, about 1 hour a week of your time, and it's really to help you overcome difficult life experiences, trauma that may be holding you back and causing feelings that are difficult to deal with day to day. It's a 10-week program, as I mentioned. There are materials on our website, caitlinshealingcenter.org, that describe the program a little bit, describe some guidelines that you can follow, also some pre-screening, post-evaluation type of questionnaires that give you an idea of what we look for prior to starting the program, what we hope to achieve after the program, and then finally a sense of what is this program all about. It's what we'll cover today. So I hope this is of interest to you. Just to find out, I think today will last about half an hour. I'm going to go through the presentation material pretty much slide by slide, bullet by bullet. Read them because some people may only have access to this information in audio, and I want to make sure they get all of it. But one of the key components today, as I mentioned, is some of the actual material that will be presented in the program. And with that, let's get started. So I'm going to work from a presentation that is at Caitlin's Healing Center, and over time add in some of the actual material from the Healing Support Program. So why do we have a Healing Support Program? As I mentioned, difficult life experiences or trauma, they cause harmful, hurtful feelings. We often disconnect from ourselves and others, and reconnection is where healing starts. For most of us, family and friends may not be able to provide the empathy we need because it's difficult. It requires them to accept us as we are and stay out of judgment. And people are not trained in this, and having that type of capacity is not easy for anyone. So this is not to put blame on family and friends. It's just the reality most of us have when we have traumatic experiences. The research on recovering from trauma say it's not possible to heal our emotional wounds in isolation. We really need good experiences to overcome bad experiences, and that starts with human connection. So our program is really to start with a safe environment. If you're an individual and here privately, hopefully just being in the presence of my voice, hearing this information makes you feel a little safer, a little more connected. But at the end of the day, our hope is that this program will be used by groups or even two people working together to help build stronger relationships, create a sense of acceptance and belonging, and facilitate this sort of mutual self-help and support among peers, which is really a key to healing from these types of experiences. So let's go through a quick description of the program. The focus is really to understand the effects of your difficult life experiences. This is not something we're taught. Unfortunately, I think children should be taught this from the youngest age. I had to learn a lot of this on my own. And you realize there's a lot of understanding that helps you put your experiences in perspective. Take them less personal, for example. Understand that the body responds to challenging experiences with what I will call an emotional wound. The same way, when you break your leg, you have pain. That's a physical experience, and there's a certain prescribed path to heal. Emotionally challenging, traumatic experiences also cause recognizable changes in our brains, and there's a path to healing. So we try to help you understand that and then help you learn skills and practices that lead to healing. Because again, the science is clear on this, but it's not well known or described to people who suffer from these types of problems. The program, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a 60 to 90 minute session per week for 10 weeks. And I really believe one session per week with some daily practice is the best way to do this. It's really the beginning of a lifelong journey, And the time it takes is not really knowable, but progress can be seen week by week, for sure. Once you start on the journey, you immediately start to feel better. A lot of people feel much better just after the first session with the information they get. So, but I want to make sure that you understand, even though there's 10 weeks, for you, what it takes to really get back to a sense of well-being and feeling good is really an individual thing. And no one can predict it, only get you going on the journey, give you the tools, and help support you. For best results, we ask that people commit to weekly homework and regular discussion with a peer support partner or a practice buddy, we'll call it. I'll tell you that all the literature says this is necessary. My own personal experience shows it's necessary. But if you're in private today and have feelings of guilt, shame, anxiety, not ready to talk with anyone about it, this is still a great place for you, because it's a good place to start to build understanding, start to build skills and strength. But eventually, I think having someone to talk to, whether it's a therapist or a friend, or even someone that you find is going through this program and is willing to be with you as a friend and help, I think is really critical to the long-term recovery. These connections really are required over time, but by no means be discouraged if you don't have that today. That's something we work on throughout the 10 weeks. Finally, we're here to validate feelings and help instill confidence that you can heal and regain a sense of well-being by your own actions and choices. Even if you've never had a sense of well-being, and we've certainly had clients that have felt unsafe, suffered abuse since their early childhood. So regaining a sense of well-being may not be the right word for you. Creating and attaining some sense of peace and well-being is what you're after, because it's not been available. I could tell you, even if it's 40, 50, 60 years, you felt this unsafeness, if you will, that can be overcome. We've seen that more than once. And so this is still potentially the right program for you to begin, okay? What's our approach? Learning activities are focused on short videos and exercises followed by optional journaling or discussions. You can always make the choice to participate or just observe. So what does that mean? Really, experiences like a video or an exercise are meant to be learning opportunities for us. And by having discussions with peers or journaling about it, it starts to cement some ideas about that experience that we can build on. It also slows down your mind. Speaking slows down your mind, writing slows down your mind. And in slowing down your mind, often wisdom or inspiration will flow, whereas when we're left to ruminate in fear or anxiety, the mind often gets carried away. So journaling and discussion are really positive practices, but for some people, they're not ready to do that right away. We had a workshop where over a 5-week period, there was one member of the group who didn't speak till the 5th week. And I checked in with her every session, and she said, I'm just learning from others. I'm listening, but I'm not ready to speak. And she had one of the most profound changes of any client we've seen by the end. So the idea that you just want to listen at the beginning, you just want to observe, you're not ready to speak, you don't want to journal. Again, these things are all okay. Over time, though, speaking with others, learning to write your feelings down, these are all positive steps that we hope over time we can all take. We cover a book I wrote called For the Love of Caitlin, which is really about principles and practices for creating the life we want and really healing. And that's available at the website on the presentation, but it's not necessary because the material that we cover is all outlined and discussed during the healing program. So the book is an added resource for you if you want it, but it's not necessary to go through this healing program and get the benefit. We also cover presentation materials that are on Caitlin's Healing Center site at caitlinshealingcenter.org. And they are the Start Healing presentation, maybe what you have is just bad presentation, and how to direct your own healing presentation. And most of the materials, the slides that are available, exercises that are in those presentations will be covered during our healing program. And what you'll get out of it is really some of the depth and reasons behind what's in these presentations. So hopefully reviewing the presentations and having that as a resource is always going to be helpful, but hopefully you'll benefit additionally if you can get into the program, do these online videos, do the practices that we suggest. You'll see much more benefit than just going through these presentations on your own. So next I'd like to give you an example of the Healing Support Program, which is the 4th lesson from the Start Healing presentation. So if you went on the website, you opened up this document, Start Healing Presentation, you would find there are 5 lessons. I like the 4th lesson because it's got a number of aspects of what we do that are illustrated here and why we do them. So let's start here. And the first 3 lessons are, you're not alone. Obviously, me being here in the video is to be here for you. This is the way I can reach the most people with this message and hopefully give you some comfort that healing is possible. Also, we make a big point of showing you it's not your fault, you're a good person. And again, there are slides, exercises to help you feel this, but the simple truth is that we were all born innocent children. And we all come forward in life a product of really what we've experienced, what we've been taught, our environment. And to the extent that we are in pain, we feel shame, we feel guilt, stress, anxiety, that's more a product of our environment and experiences than it is anything we were born with. All you have to do is look at an innocent child. It becomes obvious. And we were all that innocent child when we came into the world. And what we carry today, in many cases, if not almost all cases, if it's painful and hurtful, it's not really a direct result of our own choices, but sometimes choices we had to make because of what happened to us. And then we try to tell you, or show you, what you feel is normal given what you've experienced. A lot is made of feelings of depression, anxiety, labeling them as abnormal illnesses, disorders, etc. And I don't think the science really supports that. I think it's potentially useful in medical practice. So I'm willing to concede that that might be useful for them, but I don't think it's useful for us. I think what's most useful for us is to understand why we feel the way we feel, that it's normal to feel this way given what we've experienced, and eventually to learn it's normal to heal. What we'll cover today is you can learn skills to help yourself feel better, and we always start with a video. This particular video I'm going to show, even though it's available online from mindfulschools.org, and it was made by Julie Bayer Salzman, called Just Breathe. I show it here just as a convenience. It is a copyrighted video. I'm not claiming any ownership. I'm giving full credit to those who produced it. In the future, when we do the Healing Support Program, you'll use your PDF presentation to play the videos yourself. So this is an exception I'm making here to just show how this will go. And I want you to watch this video with me, and then we'll talk about how we use this video as a learning tool later. But it's a video of some, I think, first graders who had gone through Mindful Schools training on mindfulness. Parents noticed a significant change in their child and decided to go unscripted, film the children and what their experience was from this training. It's quite moving. So let's give this a go.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red.
When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body. I just get out of control.
It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel like. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think.
And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart. I really don't like when I get angry.
The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breaths. First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down. When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths. I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths.
It's calming down, it's not moving. It's slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain. It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain.
My brain slows down and then I feel more calm and then I'm ready to speak to that person.
So, that's a beautiful video and one of the favorite ones we use in our workshop and healing support program. We learn best through experience, our own experience and experience of others. So after we have a video program like that, we always ask, what did you notice? And we always want people to feel free to consider the question or write down any thoughts they may have. So typically we allow a minute or two. Once in a while you'll see people chat back and forth about it together quietly as others write, and it's a good practice to kind of collect your thoughts and try to process the experience we all just had together. Then if people want to talk about that in a discussion, we open up the discussion. And in my case, I've always wanted to add some thoughts at the end for two reasons. One reason is sometimes you're in a quiet group and people don't want to talk. They have feelings or thoughts, but they're a little, let's just say, reserved, if not embarrassed to speak. So rather than have the room sit silently for minutes waiting for someone to speak up, I provide what I call some thoughts. They're not the definitive thoughts, they're just my thoughts, things I get out of it that I offer to others. So in this case, you see the children learning to pause and use their breath to calm themselves before dealing with the situation. So we all have times when our experiences cause emotions to rise. There's no human being that doesn't experience this. But often if we act out of emotion, the results are worse than if we could just pause, take a breath, get a little bit more under control, and think about what's best in this situation. So this really helps them feel better, and even a child, 6-7-year-old child, can learn this skill. And so the ability to make this conscious choice instead of emotionally reacting leads to a better outcome. Simple thing, you'd think, but how many of us were practicing these skills in first grade? I'd say probably none of us. And how many of us have been practicing these skills as adults? Again, not too many of us. But interestingly, like any skill that you learn, whether it's a physical skill or mental skill, it takes practice, because emotions are there for a reason. They come up and they overwhelm rational thoughts unless you practice putting them under control. So part of our practice, what we teach, what we literally practice through exercises in our healing support program, are these types of practices. So the next thing we'll do is there's an exercise that is available online. It's from a gentleman named Neil Tranter, who's from Britain. And we like to show people what types of mindfulness exercises are available that can help us. In this case, it's called Self-Compassion or Soothing Touch Meditation by Neil Tranter. It's just 3.5 minutes. We typically do mindfulness practices, exercises that last about 3 minutes, because in the 3 minutes, oftentimes you can see a fairly substantial change, and it really helps you see the benefits of a practice and how simple it is and how little time it takes to do that. So let's try this one next.
Soothing touch. Bringing your hand to rest on your upper chest. Closing your eyes. And just beginning to tune in to the feel of your body underneath your hand. And the feel of the warmth of the hand within the chest and the heart space. So offering yourself this simple gesture of goodwill, of tenderness and kindness. If you find it helpful, you might silently say to yourself, "It's okay. It's all right." Or you might choose a different phrase. You might say to yourself, "May I be kind to myself." May I accept myself just as I am. May I be peaceful. So feeling the contact between your hand and your body. And perhaps finding your own words to offer yourself this gesture of self-compassion. And as we bring this practice to a close, perhaps setting an intention to pause from time to time as you move through your day, to bring your hand back in contact with your heart, to offer yourself this kind and tender touch. And then when you're ready, continuing with your day. Thank you.
So, another great exercise. See if we can move to the next slide. Again, after each exercise, we just ask a simple question. How did that feel? What did you notice? And again, you feel free to consider the question, write down any thoughts, and then often we would have a group discussion, or if you're watching this with a practice buddy, you could just discuss it among yourselves. Again, once the discussion is done, or if there's no discussion, I sort of weigh in with my own thoughts. And my own experience is that offering ourselves kindness and compassion can seem awkward at first, especially if we've been told we're not worthy or been abused. But this practice is essential to healing because there is goodness in each of us, and we are in a position in the long run to offer ourselves kindness and compassion. It just takes time. And also touch can be quite soothing to our body. Again, you may not feel comfortable with this, that's understandable, but just putting your hand over your heart does, in fact, the science shows, release hormones that help regulate, calm down. Anxiety attacks, for example, when I first lost my daughter, I would often have anxiety attacks at night in bed, and I found that breathing slowly, putting my hand over my heart and on my stomach really helped settle me down, and in the end it was about the only thing I could do to control it. So there is in fact science behind it, and practice again is key. One of the things we also offer in the Healing Support Program is resources that you can use to help yourself. This is called a Digital Resilience Cheat Sheet, and it's something I got from an online course that I had taken with NICAVM. I forget exactly what that stands for, but if you go to that website, you'll find they have a whole bunch of very affordable online courses to deal with what you might call behavioral health or issues that result from emotional wounds. And I took this one on resilience, and because I took it, I'm able to share this document they prepared with clients or group members. And in this document, you can see the first one is about putting your hand on your heart. Simply place your hand over your heart, feel its beat and breathe deeply. Aim for at least 20 seconds, and this releases oxytocin, which helps regulate calm and calm your fight, flight, freeze system. Again, this is the experience I had before I ever saw this sheet. It was the only thing that worked for me. And there are a number of others on the sheet. Hug your best friend, or remember a time when you felt safe. Write it down. It talks about why journaling is important, why slogans, helpful slogans can be important. So it's worth reading this through, and we have this in the Start Healing product on Caitlin's Healing Center website. You'll find this sheet as a downloadable PDF file. So we give this out to all of our group members, and we encourage them to try these out and see which ones work best for them. So finally, at the end of every lesson where we do certain exercises or videos and discussions, we try to reinforce why is it important to learn skills to help yourself feel better. Because when you start to feel better, you grow in confidence that healing is truly possible. Without feeling better, it's hard to believe it's even possible, right? Second, when your better feelings are the result of your own choices and actions, then you learn by experience that you have the ability to make things better. So this is all about empowerment and realizing you have some control beyond, ruminating on past feelings. You have a way to start to feel a little better, and things you do and choices you make can help that. And lastly, you wouldn't be here reviewing this presentation if you didn't want to feel better. So it's an important part of the Healing Support Program to have you go away early on thinking, okay, maybe there are skills I can learn, and if I practice them over time, I'm going to continue to feel better and better. And that's one of the points here. Finally, there is a fifth lesson. We won't go into it today, but really it's about healing also being normal. What you feel is normal from really difficult experiences, and healing is normal when you have understanding, support, practice, and you start to create good experiences. Okay? So who could benefit most from the Healing Support Program? I think the program is well suited for those who have experienced trauma or adversity and are looking for help to overcome emotional pain. A lot of us avoid outside help because there's stigma and shame associated with experiences. We may have tried other treatment or healing approaches and been unsuccessful, still feel that pain. It helps if you're interested in working toward healing of the underlying emotional wounds. There's a lot of help that can be provided to us in the form of, let's say, pain relief, substances, or even some form of talk therapy that gives us comfort in the moment, but doesn't necessarily heal the underlying wound. So if you're really interested in healing to the point where you don't need an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, you don't need a weekly trip to your therapist, that's really what we are trying to provide here, is understanding, tools, skills, support, so you can have that type of healing experience. Obviously, it involves gaining understanding and self-care skills, and in the end, directing your own healing journey. So the reason the Healing Support Program is 10 weeks is because after 10 weeks, you should have sufficient knowledge and skills to continue the journey, mostly with the support of others, but nothing more from me. I intend on having at least a monthly newsletter, monthly podcast, continuing to answer questions. So I'll be here as long as you need me here. But at the end of the day, the whole idea is to empower you, give you skills, give you knowledge, so you direct your own healing journey. I mean, that's really what I've done for myself. I had very little outside support at all, and it works. And the clients we've had work with us definitely get to a point where they don't want to show up for meetings anymore, not because we don't like each other, because they don't need it. They're good. And so that's really the goal of this program. And last, it helps if you're sufficiently motivated to work at your own practice and willing to try out new things. So what really is between us and healing? Understanding is a big, big part of it, and that's where we always start. But the next is, it takes some amount of practice to develop these new skills. Just like if you wanted to learn to play the piano, you're going to have to practice. If you just take a lesson every week and show up for the lesson next week and you haven't practiced, your piano teacher's not going to be too happy, and you're not going to make much progress. So it's really the same here. And the other thing that's part of this is, obviously a lot of these feelings inside us are painful. And in certain ways we have to unearth them and resolve them and learn to accept and move. Understand, accept, and move forward. And so trying things that may bring in self-awareness to these feelings, it's difficult. So you have to overcome a little bit of fear. Like I said, the benefits come pretty much immediately for everybody, but there are always going to be points in the practice of discovery that things come up that are pretty uncomfortable, and we have to work through those. So that's partly why support is important. That's partly why I want to be on here online and answering your questions, because you need a little help to get over those humps. But if you're willing to do a little work, if you're willing to try things, if you're willing to have a little courage to overcome fears, I think this is quite workable for most people. For best results, we provide online sessions to guide you, and one session per week over 10 weeks, I think, is the best way to have it sink in initially. I think at least trying out the principles and practices we offer is a good place to start. Everyone has their own practice at the end of the day that they're comfortable with. And so I don't prescribe a specific practice per se, either in the book or the workshop. I offer a lot of things for you to try and keep what works. For sure, if you do nothing it's hard to move forward, right? You can get a lot of good feelings by watching videos and being with people, but without some type of practice on your own, my best bet is that you're only going to move so far. But again, the practice is up to you. Try out what you hear and see what works for you and makes sense, and then develop your own practice. And that's really the next bullet. This daily practice to promote your own healing becomes important. If you're in a group, or even just a group of two with one buddy, just try to help and support each other and accept help from others. Oftentimes, people who come into our group, they're much better at offering help than receiving help. We're always trying to help others, but we don't think we deserve it. So that's why I make both points. We deserve it. When possible, working with a peer support or a practice buddy, inside or outside the group, for mutual support is important. So even if you're in a group and your practice buddy is your partner or a spouse at home or a brother, sister, mother, father, whoever, the practice buddy doesn't have to be in the group, but someone you could talk to every day about what you're doing to take care of yourself, about experiences, about how you're trying to learn to accept or see them from a different perspective, that is aware of what this program is about and what we teach and can do it with you. I think it's important. It's a little different than, let's say, a therapist, because the practice buddy is really someone who is doing the practice with you, is going through the experience with you, is maybe unearthing some of their own uncomfortable emotional experiences and working through them with you. And so it's a shared kind of experience, and that's really what we're after here. For groups, we very much would love this to form the basis for groups getting together to give each other healing support. So we authorize and encourage the use of this program for groups. We recommend a closed group structure, limited to 6 to 12 participants. 6 is, you want enough so people don't have to speak and there can still be a discussion. So a certain size gives people a comfort that they're not too much of the focus of attention if they don't want to be. By the same token, too large a size, people can get lost easily and not really have enough chance to contribute. So I think this is from our practice, less than 6 is a little small, and more than 10 to 12 really becomes unworkable as well. So that's the range we think works. 10 weeks, I think any subsequent meetings that group members want to hold, and we've had groups that have had 3 or 4, 5 or 6 people meet for weeks after the 10 weeks. That's been helpful, and so we absolutely encourage that. But our program really, I think, can be offered and experienced in about 10 weeks, and then it's up to you. In terms of what is this group for, really trauma details, I don't think should be discussed in the group. When they come up, and they've come up, they often trigger others. We've had some pretty significant experiences with that. We've had to really clamp down on that uncomfortably. So we like to say that up front. Of course, we're going to talk about our experiences, just like I talk about the loss of my daughter, but I don't go into details ever because it's just too difficult for me to unearth it to begin with and for you to hear it. But my pain from it is something I can't avoid. If you saw, I had a video on Saving Caitlin's, just thinking about it, very difficult for me. So, that's going to come up in groups, and it's unavoidable. But, we don't want to make that the focus, because you have group therapy, you have individual therapy, you have places for that. And I apologize, it's coming up now, but that's the right place for it. I think in terms of leadership, it's important that we ask for consent of other group members before we assume a leadership role. And you can rotate among other members, because this is all about an empowering experience. If you read the Principles for Trauma-Informed Care, there's a huge part of that that's collaborative and equalization of power. And it's, again, something that we don't get normally in a therapeutic relationship. These relationships are different, even if you are facilitating discussion as a group leader. As I am in this video to a degree, I'm sort of leading the discussion. I want you to think, I'm your peer. I'm someone who suffered like you. I've found a way to the other side through a process that's allowed me, for the most part, to have a very kind, peaceful, joyful life. And I want that for everyone. And so you want a peer who can be in a leadership role but also be a peer. And you want to have the ability to have that role move among you because you're collaborating and there's an equalization of power among you. And then finally, the group leader's role is really to facilitate discussion and also participate in discussions. The reason I'm doing this on video is my clients told me I couldn't train others to do this. I thought of qualifying and training others to do what I do, and they said, what you do is too authentic and too original and too much from your heart and your own experience, and that's what gives it value. And we don't believe you can train someone to do what you do. And so I said, well, I'll try a video program. I'll try giving it to people directly online. Talking to a camera is a little strange to me, to be honest, but it's the only way I can reach you all. And it's a bit of an experiment for me, but I know it's worked when I'm with people in person talking just like this. So I hope online it works for you too. For those who want to be group leaders, I think there's a bit of responsibility that comes with being a leader. One of my complaints about leaders is they often don't walk the talk. It's very easy to say things. It's very easy to read them in a book or learn them in school and come repeat them. Any of us can do that. Parrots do that, right? So what's hard is to take these principles online and live them and demonstrate them and provide an example. That's hard. And so if you want to be a leader in healing from trauma and difficult experiences, you should at least try to follow the principles and practices that are out there from the experts. And in this case, it would be SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration from the National Institutes of Health. They have a very good document that was developed over a long period of time from a lot of experts in the field on trauma recovery, on what a trauma-informed approach should be, and what the principles you should practice. And I think you should be well healed in that. The second is, for me, I think the most important principles one can embody as an individual is love and kindness, acceptance, understanding, gratitude, humility. These are the principles I teach in the book. If you want to be a leader of healing support groups, I recommend that you read those and you try to follow them. Again, it's not a requirement. You can envision what those principles mean in your own mind and just try to follow them. You don't necessarily have to read my view of the book, what those mean. But these are the kind of things you should embody, I think, as a leader. I'm going to cover next the pre-screening questionnaire just because I put it on the website and there's a reason for it. And I'm just going to go through a couple of the questions here and talk about them and to inform you a little bit of the depth behind it. If you come into this program, you should understand what you're trying to get out of it at the beginning. At least have a goal, because you're going to invest time and energy, and there should be something you want to come out of it at the end. I have these other questions that 2, 3, 4, and 5 that really talk to other aspects of whether or not this program is best for you at this time. And so I feel safe in my current living and or work environments. Circle, agree, somewhat agree, not sure, somewhat disagree, or disagree. So obviously if you agree with 2, 3, 4, and 5, I have somewhere to go for emotional support. I understand the support program content and group discussion could trigger memories, and I'm able to manage these if they come up, and I have at least 30 minutes a day available. I am willing to commit that time as needed to do the readings and healing practice recommended in the support group. If you agree with all those, this is easy. What if you disagree with every one of those? Or you somewhat disagree, or you're not sure? Does this mean that this healing program is not good for you? What I want to tell you unequivocally is no. Even if you disagree with every one of those, you say, I'm not safe, I have no one for support, I get triggered all the time and I can't control it, and I have no time because I'm too busy to do this. I would still say, okay, well, we have some things to work on. You have my utmost compassion for your situation. And if you're willing to view these videos and at least do something with the material you're taught and over time make progress on becoming more safe and maybe finding someone over time for emotional support, either individually in a group, which we again work on. If you're willing to do practices that can help you handle emotional triggers and maybe learn how to manage feelings. And if you are able to, over time, make a little more time, maybe it's 5 minutes a day at the start, maybe it's 10 minutes in a month. The whole idea is, if you can't do any of these things ever, that's going to be hard, right? If you're never safe, it's hard to heal. If you never have emotional support, it's hard, if not impossible, to heal. But just because we start in a difficult place doesn't mean we can't end up in a great place. So I put these out there because the more you agree with statements 2 through 5, the better chance you have to succeed. And the less you agree with 2 through 5, the more work we have to do along the way to get you there, okay? The post-evaluation questionnaire really tries to show us where we're going. So the first 4 questions: the support program environment was safe and supportive. So if you're not feeling safe and supportive listening to me online, then that's a bad sign. And that's a reason for this maybe not to be good for you. And I'm sure there's something out there for you, but maybe it's not this. We want to validate your feelings, give you hope for healing. That isn't necessarily going to happen in this informational briefing, but over time, this is what we want to give you, is hope for healing. We want you to understand the effects of your difficult life experiences and how to heal from them. Again, understanding skills, knowing that you have some power to do this. And we want you to have learned some skills and practices that help you feel better, and so you have that experience. So the post-evaluation questionnaire, obviously you can't fill this out today. The only reason I put it here is this shows you where we are hoping everyone in the program can get to. Again, we hope they all agree or somewhat agree with these 4 items at the end of this healing support program. And the next is similar. I have more confidence I can heal and regain a sense of well-being by my own self-awareness, thoughts, and actions. I have experienced some benefits from a regular healing practice and intend to continue the practice. Overall, I would rate the program as helpful, somewhat helpful, not sure, unhelpful. So when we look at these, again, it just is a roadmap to where we're going. There's self-awareness, there's learning to control your thoughts and actions, make positive choices. These all come into healing, and over 10 weeks we hope you begin to make progress and feel that you could agree with this. Again, experience becomes so powerful, and so I have experienced benefits from this regular healing practice, and I want to continue. The whole thing about the practice, if it's a good practice and it makes you feel better, it's not a chore anymore. It's not something you have to, I got to get out of bed and practice. Get out of bed and practice because you know your whole day is going to be better. And so after 10 weeks, there's a good chance that you're going to feel like this is a practice. Some aspects of the practice we've developed with you is something you want to continue. Obviously, we want the program to be somewhat helpful to extremely helpful for everyone. We want specific comments on your experience and suggestions on how to improve them. So both the pre-screening questionnaire and post-evaluation questionnaire, for any members who sign up, we will give you a link to that online. You could take these questionnaires anonymously just to give us information that can help us make the program better, or you can just use them for yourself. You keep all that information to yourself. It's still good information for you to have. So to access the Healing Support Program, 10 weekly sessions, we're going to videotape them like this one, and it will be accessible on YouTube. The difference will be this will be publicly accessible on YouTube because I want everyone to have an opportunity to see what this is. But to get into the actual 10 sessions, we ask you to sign up as a member to Caitlin's Healing Community. And the reason is, and by the way, it only requires an email address. It requires, all of this is free. There's no payment information required. And I just want to be able to connect with people who are going through this program with regular newsletters that answer questions, with emails back and forth. And I just think it's important to stay connected to you as you go through the program. And the only way I can do that is if I have your email address. Obviously, you can unsubscribe to emails, but the only way to get these links is via email. So as you're going through the program, you have to necessarily stay in touch with me, and I will be sending out periodically newsletters, emails. That's my goal, is to stay connected. So, as I mentioned, you'll need to sign up as a member at Caitlin's Healing Community. We'll also email links to the pre-screening post-evaluation surveys that I mentioned. And lastly, this is the last point in this program today, is our long-term vision is to help build up local healing communities of members committed to their own healing and well-being and dedicated to helping others on the healing journey. So one thing I noticed in this program is it takes a lot of time and commitment to help others personally heal. And I would not be doing this if it weren't personal for me. To me, one of the things I repeatedly told my clients is, you're all Caitlin's to me. You're all Caitlin's and Ken's. I take your suffering personal. And because I know there's a solution to it, I want you to have it. And I think it's my life's work to make sure anybody who wants it can get this. That's partly why it's online now, it's free, and why when I talk to you it feels personal at times, and you see that because I can't hide it. I think that's what someone who's suffering wants to see. So they know we care, and that they're worth it. And so, but the real power of this is not me here. It's you and a friend who feels this way, or you and a local group of 6 people who feel this way, and then you start to help each other, because I can only offer you my own experience. And my own experience is powerful, and it's helpful, but it's limited. You can learn so much from each other. So my real goal here is that people see this, they benefit from it, and after 10 weeks they go, wow, this was life-changing for me. I want to help others. And they start to become buddies to others. They start to form groups for others. And little by little, these little communities spring up all over. Because there are so many people who need this kind of healing. And a lot of them don't even know it. They're suffering from difficult experiences that they thought were normal. It's normal to be spanked and yelled at and all these different things as a child. It's normal to suffer these kind of abuses as a teenager. Who doesn't get bullied? Who doesn't get this? And, we think these things are normal, but whether they're normal or not, it's not the point. They leave a lasting emotional damage. And healing is possible. We can feel a lot better. And so my hope is that this becomes a catalyst to start a healing movement, and I hope you're all part of it. So thanks for your time today. It's been an honor, and I hope to see you in the first session.